72 years, 8 months, and 25 days ago, the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima in an attempt to end the war in the Pacific. In this study, we'll examine the government's decision to unleash nuclear warfare for the first time in history on Japan and the morality behind it. First, we took a survey from people in the Warren Township area. We simply asked, were the nukes on Japan necessary during World War II? According to the survey, it's close to a 50-50 split, with 48% saying yes and 46% saying no. A brave 5% admitted they didn't know enough about the topic, so we'll give you guys the rundown. In 1939, German physicists released their research on the splitting of a uranium atom to the scientific community. Albert Einstein and Enrico Fermi, both running from fascists in Germany and Italy, heeded the government to pursue a program that could combat that of the Axis powers. President F.D. Roosevelt saw no real reason for the program, and so the research started slowly. In 1941, the program received its official code name, the Manhattan Project. In December 1942, a group of physicists, led by Fermi, produced the first controlled nuclear chain reaction.
A single particle starts the reaction, splitting the uranium atom. Here now is the release of energy as heat and blast. Here are powerful rays being given off, similar to X-rays. But here are free neutrons driven out with tremendous speed. And provided there is sufficient U-235 present, what science calls a critical mass, those neutrons bombard other uranium atoms, causing them to split and split still others. The result? A chain reaction. Over 1 million billion atoms exploding within 2 seconds.
After this milestone, more funds were given to the project, and it continued at breakneck speed. However, in June 1942, Germany stopped progression on their atomic program, and the research on the U.S. side continued. Altogether, the research and production of the atomic bombs totaled up to be $2 billion and had employed 120,000 Americans. On July 26, 1945, the U.S., supported by China and the British Empire, called for unconditional surrender from Japan, meaning there would be no guarantees for them post-war. Japan denied, and on August 6th, the little boy was dropped on Hiroshima, and on the 9th, Fat Man was dropped on Nagasaki. Finally, on August 14th, the Japanese surrendered.
I saw an aircraft, like a tiny silver drop, entering the sky above Hiroshima. I instantly recognized it as an American plane, as no Japanese aircraft could fly at that altitude at the time. It was just one plane, so I assumed that it was passing by as usual.
And I was counting 1, 2, 3.
I was wiping the desktop. That was when the bomb was dropped.
It took about 45 seconds from the time the bomb left the airplane until it exploded. And I think there wasn't a man in the airplane that wasn't either timing it with his watch or counting or doing something. I was sure the bomb was a dud. I was sure it wasn't going to work.
After falling for 43 seconds, the time and barometric triggers started the firing mechanism. A uranium bullet fired down a barrel into a uranium target. Together, they started a nuclear chain reaction. Solid matter began to come apart, releasing untold quantities of energy.
The death toll was extremely high, with 90 to 146,000 casualties in Hiroshima and 39 to 80,000 in Nagasaki. 70% of all buildings, including 42 of 45 hospitals, were razed, burned to the ground. 90% of doctors and physicians had perished, and many more who had been outsourced later died from radiation poisoning. Not to mention, pregnant women experienced higher rates of miscarriages and infant deaths, as well as mental and physical disabilities in their children. Rates of leukemia, as well as thyroid, breast, and other cancers increased and remain higher than average today. One eyewitness stated, "I climbed Hikama Hill and looked down. I saw that Hiroshima had disappeared. I was so shocked by the sight. Of course, I saw many dreadful scenes after that. But that experience, looking down and finding nothing left of Hiroshima, was so shocking that I simply can't express what I felt. Hiroshima didn't exist. That was mainly what I saw. Hiroshima just didn't exist." However, only 1.38% of the uranium fuel within Little Boy, the bomb that dropped on Hiroshima, actually fissioned, meaning that the bomb was only a fraction effective as it was supposed to be. Fat Man was 10 times more effective, but still wasn't used to its full potential.
Now we'll answer a couple of questions you might have had about the situation. First off, why didn't the Japanese surrender when originally offered? The United States had already shown the damage of the atomic bomb during the test run 10 days before the request, and on top of that, Japan was already in ruins. A blockade, as well as naval mine-laying operations, severed oceanic trade with Japan, forcing them to abandon 35 of their 45 vital convoy routes. Both their air and naval forces were decimated, and the firebombings of Tokyo razed the historic city. But we have to consider the ideologies held in Japan at the time. The soldiers held tight to the samurai code of Bushido, where death in battle was the highest honor.
The code itself has no rules to refer to, but Inazune Tobi notes his observations as to the characteristics of the samurai in his book Bushido, The Soul of Japan. According to him, they were just, courageous, benevolent, polite, truthful, controlled, and loyal. They also possessed an incredibly strong sense of honor and sense of shame, which meant that any infringement upon the code quite often ended in the seemingly brutal practice of harakiri. In the eyes of the samurai, though, the act was no more than a chance to expiate their crimes, apologize for errors, redeem their friends, prove their sincerity, or escape from disgrace. In Hagakure, Alexander Bennett writes, "To the samurai, death was celebrated as being integral to their honor and way of life. Attachment to life hindered a warrior during a catastrophe, and so it was deemed virtuous to train one's mind and spirit to be able to choose death with firm resolve if the situation called for decisive action."
Shame and honor played huge roles in the life of a Japanese citizen, and surrender would mean shame to the whole country. On top of that, the Japanese were very attached to their emperor, Hirohito, as they believed he was a deity, and the idea of unconditional surrender meant there was no guarantee he would remain as their emperor. Next question. Why did the US choose to drop bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki specifically? Well, and pardon my pronunciation, several locations were suggested, including Niigata, Kyoto, Yokohama, Kokura, and even the Emperor's Palace in Tokyo. Niigata and Yokohama were all heavy industrial sites, but were denied due to their geography or lack of importance. Kyoto and the Emperor's Palace, however, were denied due to being cultural epicenters focused on ancient traditions and religions. In the end, Hiroshima's importance was due to its proximity to an industrial urban area, embarking port, and army depot, and due to its surrounding hills would have produced an even more potent effect. And Nagasaki, due to the weather conditions over Kokura at the time of the bombing.
Final question. Whose fault is it? The obvious answer seems to be the United States, as we produced and used the bombs against our enemies. It's thought that Japan was already on its knees, and we continued through with the plan as an act of racism. Those who agree with this believe a weapon of this extremity would have never been used against white people. Flip side, there's President Truman and his advisors' opinion. They believe that the bomb was a military necessity to end the war in Japan, as another amphibious landing like Normandy would have been costly, both in lives and dollars. Prolonged war was beneficial for neither side. Truman even believed that both Japanese and American lives were saved by ending the destructive war this way.
There is a third opinion that not many people know, however. As the Soviet Union joined the war, some believe the nukes acted as a warning, or as a way to prevent them from gaining access to the warm water ports of Japan. With both the US and the Soviet Union working together, they surely would have brought Japan to quickly surrender. But that would mean the US would have to share their gateway to the Middle East with the Soviet Union, which isn't economically beneficial. In the end, there is no definite answer to the question. It comes down to morality and information. It's a heavy topic, but one that must be discussed. The US has now opened the box of nuclear warfare, but will it be Pandora's box or a Christmas present? Only the future holds the answer.